Hi, I'm Vanessa Anderson.
And I'm Stephanie Cooley.
It's time to give ourselves a moment to be real, to express all of motherhood.
Mothering is beautiful. It's wonderful.
And you know what? It's fucked up too.
Come hang out with us. We're the real motherfuckers. In one of our episodes, Vacation Without Kids, Vanessa and I chat about a recent yoga retreat. It was peaceful, healing, relaxing, and not to be cheesy, but I'll say it anyway, it was life-changing.
While the retreat is in the past, we are still reaping the benefits today. This was my second year going to Mudra retreats, and they did not disappoint. Everyone involved just gets it.
They think of every detail. The sleepy, calm, and serene beachfront hotel, the food was beautifully presented and delicious.
Oh yes, I miss their hibiscus tea. Our yoga teacher was a true inspiration. Each class with her taught me something different and expanded my curiosity with movement and with mindfulness.
Reach out to us on Instagram, Real Motherfuckers Podcast, if you have questions on the retreat, and we're happy to answer them for you.
Yes, go to www.mudraretreats.com and use our link, RMFP, when you check out to support us. Well, shit, let's roll right into this, ladies. We ready? You good?
Now we're going to slide right into it.
Yeah, we're going to slide our asses right into this one. We're going to go for it.
We're going to be just like 13-year-old
Yeah,
boys
we're going to be pervert. Well, I'm going to be a little ridiculous because you know what? Comedy makes me feel comfortable, and I am uncomfortable about this one. I really am. I'm uncomfortable, but yeah, I'm the one that wanted to do this episode. I was like, I'm curious. Like, I've had a few friends talk about anal sex. That's what we're talking about today. And we're also talking about sexuality and aging. But anal sex is something that people are more comfortable to kind of say, hey, I've tried it. You know, it's one of those things that, you know, we are open to now.
I don't think I've talked to a single girlfriend who's
had it
talked about doing it in the butt. No.
I've had one or two. Yeah. And one of them's like, fucking, I love it. And you need to try it. And the other one's like,
yeah.
You know, so I was like, all right. So I got a thumbs down and a thumbs up. And I'm like,
I think a lot of our listeners are people who have been in long-term relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And
I know what you're going to say.
The funny thing is, it's like, okay, well, you've been having sex for a long time. Is pussy boring?
Yeah. Yeah.
Should we do other things? Should we go up different holes?
Yes. And, you know, it's just, for me, the booty is the caca hole. You know, it just is. And yet there's this curiosity for me, you know, because of what you just said.
Yeah.
Because the pussy gets old for two people, not just the one putting it in. You know, so here we are. And of course, we have this beautiful resource that we've had. She's our, third co-host of this podcast, I feel, our most recurring guest. She is the one who's redesigned our logo, and we just love our Lola L'Amour. And she's back for more, baby. Welcome.
Yes, I'm so happy to be here and have a very forbidden conversation. I'm fast forwarding into school pickup with all the moms in our community who listen to this podcast, who are going to be like, well, now I really know you.
You know what?
Well, there's such a stigma of you do it in the butt, you're nasty.
Yeah, or your husband does you in the butt. He must want to be gay. There's that too.
We got to talk about all that.
We got to talk about it
all these thoughts and destigmatize booty sex.
The booty caca sex.
Maybe part of it is taking the caca out of it.
Maybe, and I think we're going to be clarifying that.
We're going to talk about that because that part is sometimes optional. But no guarantees.
Yeah. Where do we start?
So I think, can we just start, because you're our little love historian here. Can you please start us off with the history of sex? Like, of anal sex? Like, where did this even start? Yeah. Like, where did this anal, where it was recorded or where people actually talked about it?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have evidence as far back as the cave paintings go, but I'm willing to bet that it's been going on since Since before time. I mean, probably since before we were even formally this version of this species. Why? Because humans and all animals are innately curious, and we see something and we're like, can I put my finger in there? Can I eat that? And
yeah, what does it taste
and
like?
What's that taste like? And I'm talking about like there's rocks that we find on the beach and we're like, oh, that hole fits my finger. Let me put my finger in there. You know, we have this innate desire to touch life. And that's something that's been a part of our makeup since the very beginning. Now, like in recorded history, we know that there have been cultures across all of civilization that have explored broad ranges of sexuality and have had much less stigma than what we currently are navigating in this Western culture. We have the Kama Sutra from the Hindu traditions, right? Which talks about all the sex. I mean, you could probably find something in there referring to toes and ears, right? Like there's no part of the body that is unexplored by the Kama Sutra. And then there's Greek history, right? And we all have heard stories about the different interpretations of what we would now call homosexuality, right? That there were practices among all the sexes where sex was a much more acceptable thing to explore with friends, with same sex, with different sex. There was a whole different perspective of what sexuality was and what sexual expression was acceptable. And so, you know, what monogamy was, like all of these things that we take for granted as like, well, this is the way things are done, and this is the right way, and this is the clean way, and this is the way that I don't have to carry shame around. That's all a story written by our current culture. And it's just like our models of what's beautiful. Things evolve and things change. And so that's a very helpful thing to remember when we talk about something as stigmatized as sexuality in general. And that's why I'm going to encourage the listeners who are like, well, I'm not interested in this topic. Like, ew, not for me. There is something really important to stay present for conversations like this, because whatever your sexuality is, there are places in your body and in your mind that carry shame around your desires, around your body, around how you are curious about expressing your sexuality that may not for you include anal sex, but to hear people talk about it without shame does something for your own system about the places where you do carry shame, around the places where you do carry curiosities that you don't feel like you're allowed to express and explore. So I encourage everyone to stay, to hold steady and allow for a de-shaming to happen, because we need this in our world right now. Our human species is really struggling in so many ways. And a lot of it is because we're disconnected from our nature, from our human nature, from our animal nature, from the truth of who we are as beings. And so we've created this very inhumane way of living. And so talking about this can help us rehumanize ourselves. So I think it's really important, and it goes beyond and is deeper, pun intended, than the topic at hand.
Yeah, well, yesterday we were all in the same yoga class.
Yes.
And our wonderful teacher, Shelby, was talking about curiosity.
And here it is.
Here it is. We're going to all be curious. This is what this freaking podcast is about. It's just like the curiosity for all the different ways we can do life.
And if you don't want to ask the question, we are asking it for you. You just have to listen.
Yeah.
I think
we're going to ask all the
we'll
questions.
ask it. You don't have to ask your friends. We'll just fucking do it. We'll be that for you. But I love that you also tagged on saying, you know, we're so far from being human, you know, and yesterday our guest that we had, Anaya, she attempted suicide, and she talked about the process of that. And one of the main cores was just not having connection with humans. That was like a big reason why she was feeling that way. Not having that, you know, not having that human interaction and connection, and always being on devices. She's just, you know, it was just a very clear, I don't want to say simple, but simple understanding of course you can feel that way with not giving yourself your human needs. You know what I mean? So you coming full circle to what you're saying, let's get sexy.
Even more.
Yeah. Connect and connect.
Yeah.
Connect like Legos.
Right. top and bottom, baby.
Don't bring Legos into this.
That's our world, dude. And I think Connect, it's fucking Legos for me right now. It'll be something else later, but right now it's that.
Oh, maybe Lola can teach us how to do the butt sex so it doesn't feel like stepping on Legos.
Oh my
Yes.
God.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Okay.
For
So I
real.
mean, we've all tried it a little, and then you're like, back up.
Exit only.
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh, what are you doing?
Yeah, exactly. Or it slips. You're like,
Yeah. Yes. So let's just talk about the fact that we never want this to be accidental.
Yeah.
Yes.
This needs to be an experience that's intentional and that is developed slowly, because there's a whole different process for arousal that needs to happen for all bodies. We're not just talking about female bodies, all bodies. And that's the thing I want to talk about the great cosmic asshole that we're exploring today, is that it is an equal opportunity orifice. Everybody's got one. So
True.
Yeah.
right? So the stuff that we're going to talk about applies to everybody, male, female, transgender, gender fluid. Like, this is something that we all have access to and that we all carry shame around, because we do have the association that it's a dirty place. And it is a dirty place sometimes, right? So we have to be real with that fact. This is a grand finale event, not the starter pack. Like,
Okay.
we don't return from this black hole.
Okay. See, that's
go
what I'm
all the
trying.
way through.
Yes. This is exactly like the sequence. There's a sequence to it. You know what I mean? So
There's
thank
a
you for bringing that
sequence.
up.
There's a sequence, and we need to be already aroused to explore this area, because otherwise our sphincters are too tight. We are carrying too much tension. There's no possibility for it to really be pleasurable for anyone. And so we want to be in a state of full sexual arousal already, which means for women, you are moist, you are engorged, you are starting to feel your body relax. You might feel heat flushing the rest of your system. You don't have to already have had an orgasm. You don't ever have to have had an orgasm ever in your life to enjoy sex, right? Like, it's not about that. It's just about allowing the body its time and its space to turn on. And for women, that takes between 20 and 45 minutes just to get fully aroused, right? And so we don't really think about that. And a lot of times we're like, God, this is taking forever. It's probably so much work for them. Like, are they so tired and bored already? Like, good God, I wish I could respond faster. Let me just try to get myself there, and we pressure ourselves, and that's going to take us further away from authentic pleasure. So my first advice about this and any sexual connection is to allow your body the time and space that it actually needs. And we all get turned on and we have those quickies that are bam, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, 5 minutes and we're done. But for a practice like this, where you're really pushing edges, really pushing boundaries, exploring new territories, you want to give yourself time and space. So this is a definite sex date type of activity, because you want to have time and space to allow your bodies to come online and to explore something new. So you want to schedule in time, even though it doesn't sound sexy. We've talked about this before. Allow yourself that time and space so you have privacy. So your kids aren't going to be like, Mom! And you're like, oh God, Dad just slipped it in. No, I cannot help you fix the TV. You've got to have time and space and privacy. Yeah. And there's some things to prepare as well. So this is an event that requires more intention than your habituated sexual activities. And I know this goes across the board for homosexual relationships, heterosexual relationships, multiple partner relationships. You need time and space for this one. So some of the things that we can do to prepare, and this would be a physical preparation, which then also supports the emotional preparation, because you're not as wrapped up in is there going to be a Hershey kiss at the end? What's going on here?
Oh my God.
Right? Nobody wants that experience. Does that guarantee you're not going to have it? No, but we can help it along a little bit.
Yeah.
But it makes you feel emotionally safer to feel like you're doing what you can to create an enjoyable experience for everybody. So step number 1 is to understand what your body's cycles are. Do you wake up first thing in the morning and need to take a dump? If this is the case, morning backdoor sex is not going to be for you, right? Because you're already going to have a lot going on in the pipes that you don't want to have to clear out beforehand. You don't want to associate it with caca in that moment, right? You want to associate it with something different. So know when your shit tends to come through, right? Like early morning is not going to be my time. Wake up and I got to go.
Yeah.
So you want to know and be intimate with your body's cycles. And again, this like goes into the much bigger picture of just having better sex in general. You also want to eat light that day or the night before, so you don't have to go on a fast, but think about it like you're clearing the path, you know, like you don't want to have a steak and potatoes dinner and then be like, sweet, right? There's going to be a lot for your body to process, right?
Oh God, I just can't right now.
Don't have a steak and potato. That reminds me, we had a bunch of people over for Christmas, and the next day, all of our septic system was fucking clogged. I was like, next time people come over, I'm just serving broth.
Exactly.
Texting me about that, I was dying laughing.
Broth only if we have 20 or more people at my house. Same with this.
gosh. So, hey,
when you have
same
sex,
with
just
this.
do broth.
So
bone broth.
No anal sex for those people when
Bone
they came
broth
over.
when you get the boner in your butt.
I was like, first of all, don't attempt it when you have 20 people in your house. Second of all, don't attempt it when you've just eaten this huge Christmas meal.
All right. So you're saying I'm literally taking notes. You saying make a date.
Yeah.
But your date, you better be eating salad on that date.
Yeah.
And then
Yep.
day before, you better be, little vegetarian vegan diet because you don't want a cow coming out.
Think about juice cleanse, baby.
I mean, that is hilarious. All right. I'm sorry. That was my the 13-year-old girl self coming out with that steak meal. That was threw me over.
I mean, and let's not even talk about what corn's going to do. So,
Oh, my Lord. I don't remember eating no corn.
Oh my God.
no elotes.
The food that goes down or shows up the way it went down.
Yeah.
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 Oh, man. All right, man. Okay.
Right. And it's good because the more we can laugh about this stuff, the less problem we have actually talking about it. It's all good. The other thing you can do, I've never actually done this part, but you can do like a saline solution enema if you are really concerned about like, I want to just wash everything out. I just want to make sure that there's no chance of like grit happening or just discomfort, right? Because you are already pushing your edges. You may as well have like the cushiest, smoothest experience possible. So I haven't done that before because this is an activity that first of all, let me just say this is not like all day anal for me over here in this household. Like it's not even my preferred activity. I'm definitely open to it. It can definitely be enjoyable, but like, let's just presence that this is not like my 99% of my activities.
Yeah.
Just so people have context and are looking at me in the parking lot with a lot of judgment.
Well, I think that's like the biggest issue is like, I'm like, fuck, I don't want it to be messy. That's and you're worried about it being messy the entire time. Like, I'm not enjoying myself because I'm just wondering what it looks like back there.
No, totally.
Well,
I got puppies, man, and am I going to have to put down my puppy pads when I be doing this? Like, what do you do?
That is actually good advice, not the puppy pad, but like we've talked about before.
Yeah, the sex blanket.
The sex blankets are such a permissive membrane between you and the rest of your space, and it's soft and it's cushy, and you know that it's washable. You know that nothing's going to get messed up, and that's really, really helpful. Or if you're like me, you can do this while you're traveling and not have to worry because these are not your sheets. This is not your bed. This is not your problem.
Oh my God. I don't know if I want you to sleep over my house anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it in your guest room. Oh my goodness.
So
I would
they'd be
never
like-
do that to you.
So Marriott's beware.
I know you wouldn't.
Next time I check into a Marriott, they're going to be like, are you that bitch that's going to shit on our sheets?
There's that note that we have in your file.
Yeah, exactly.
No, and like, this is the thing, guys. We are all human. We all shit. We all make messes. Like, there needs to be, in my not so humble opinion, a lot more acceptance about bodily functions in general. You know, like, why is it so embarrassing when somebody farts? Why is it like a big problem when a woman bleeds through into her underwear. Like, we really need to let go of a lot of that judgment. I don't see dogs walking around being like, oh my God, did anybody see that poop I just took?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's just part of life. So yeah, just that piece is important. But we want to have a pleasurable experience. And it is not pleasurable when you got stuff up the pipe, because you can feel it, right? It's going to inhibit any sort of enjoyment that you have. Next point for pleasure, beyond just like having cleaner pipes, is lubrication. The anal area does not self-lubricate for anybody. And so in order for it to at all be enjoyable, for it to be safe, for there not to be tearing, for there not to be a problem, because it's a very sensitive place, you need to use a really, really good lubricant. And they now have, because there's so much more openness to this in general as an activity, there's anal sex specific lubricants that just have a lot more staying power, because you're going to need to have a lubricant that doesn't get sticky, that doesn't go away and evaporate within 3 seconds and you need to reapply, because otherwise it's just literally a pain in the ass, my friends. That's not cool. So there's a company called Cake, and they make, I think it's called Tush Kush is the name of their anal specific lubricant. I have tried it and it lasts. And that's really like a key factor is you want to just be able to go into the experience. The other piece to make it pleasurable is to take it really, really slow. So the way that the anal is structured physiologically is there's 2 sets of sphincters. You have the outer sphincter that you see, that's the starfish, and then you have the inner set of sphincters. And in order for both of them to fully relax, which is what is required for it to feel good for everybody, your partner and yourself, you need to go slow, because that set of sphincters, especially the inner one, actually needs like a consistent, gentle pressure, like for maybe 60 to 90 seconds before it will loosen. Otherwise, it'll just stay tight, right? Because it's designed to hold everything in until it feels the pressure, and then it can release. So it's feeling the pressure from the other direction, not from inside of your body, from outside of your body. And it needs time to be like, okay, it's safe to release. Right. And so that's where a lot of people get tripped up with this, is they are rushing the process, and they can get it through that first initial point of contact, but then they can't get it any further. And they're like, oh, this is just not for me, or like, I'm too tight, I can't relax, or this doesn't feel good. And that's because they're not giving it enough time. Like, this is one of those slow, steady, gentle experiences until your body acclimates to it.
Well, and it also probably kind of feels like you have to take a shit, right? I mean, that's
a little
where you
bit.
feel
it just
the
feels
shit.
like pressure. Yeah, it feels like pressure. It's like, okay, like there's something there. And then you have to remind yourself, like, this is okay. Like, this is okay. This is not my body needing to take a poop right now, even though it feels similar. Let me just like breathe into it and relax, because it can feel good. It really, really can. There are, especially for men, the way that their anatomy is designed, their prostate gland has so many nerve endings and so much sensitivity, and the only way to stimulate it is through the anus. And so for men, it is a very, very pleasurable experience. In fact, many of the men who I've talked to about this, which, you know, I have lots of crazy conversations in my life, but men who I've talked to about this who have gotten aroused enough from the front end, right? They're fully aroused. When you start to then stimulate the prostate via the rear entry, their orgasm experience is far, far, far more amplified. It goes deeper into their body. It becomes almost like our equivalent of a G-spot orgasm. And for most men, their release is very penis focused. It's like they get excited, they have their release, and it's like very, very genital driven. And so it's fleeting, you know? And when you start to create a more full body pleasure experience, they can have deeper and more incredible orgasms. And yet there's so much shame for men because it's been completely associated with being gay. And of course, that's not okay culturally, which is really fucked up, that they won't let themselves loosen up to experience that. They think that it means that they're gay. There's so much association with that. Their partners might be afraid that they're gay. there's all these things that can happen that prevent all of us from experiencing the most pleasure possible. And that's a big part of my mission. And that's why I want to have this conversation is I want us all to open to more pleasure, enjoyment, aliveness, humanity in our lives. And sex is a great way to do that.
Yeah.
So how do women benefit from this when we do it?
Yeah.
Because I feel like all my goodies are in the front. So how do we hit? What are we hitting when we hit that?
They are not. We actually have a bundle of nerve endings, and I'm not a physiological sex doctor, so I can't remember the exact name of it. But there's a bundle of nerve endings for us that is exactly opposite where the G-spot is. And so there are ways to stimulate that only come from the back door as well. So that is why double penetration is actually a thing. Like we can have a vibrator or an anal butt plug, work with that while we're getting banged by our delicious husbands and partners. Yeah. And there can be that much more pleasure for us too. And it's also a naughty thing. And one of the things that really helps us sexually open up to more enjoyment is to understand what are our core desires? What are the flavors of the things that turn us on? And then the more of those things we can intentionally build into our sexual relationships, the more enjoyment we're going to have. And so for me, naughtiness, like, oh, I shouldn't be having sex here. Oh, this is like a naughty time of day. Oh, somebody might see. Like there's a thread of this is forbidden that for me personally is a turn on. And so because anal sex is forbidden, naughty, no, there's a turn on that happens in my system, right? And so I can tune into that and track that and be like, awesome. That adds a layer of enjoyment for me because it's like, yep, shouldn't like it, and I am, fuck you. You know, like I'm a kind of a sexual rebel in that way, even though my relationship is pretty conventional in many ways. So we have to understand what our turn-ons are. And so if you're listening and you go, yeah, I like it to be a little bit dirty, I like it to be a little bit naughty, a little bit kinky, it doesn't have to be like I need to get tied up and beaten in order to get turned on in order for this to be a thing for you, right? Yeah. And like anybody can enjoy this kind of activity. You just have to de-shame it and destigmatize it for yourself.
We have to let go of those stereotypes, let go of the vision that we have had in our head from popular culture of what this means.
Yeah, you know, and that was the other thing, you know, like a lot of the anal images that were given to us in the early times was, you know, historical movies when people come in and it's war and they rape women anally. It's to you know, dehumanize them and to control, and it's a brutality kind of deal. That's kind of where mine comes from.
Absolutely. And it can be gentle. It has to be gentle, actually.
I was going to say that is like you're talking about like people being turned on by like it being naughty. But I think what about the other mental, emotional aspect of that is like, what if you don't get turned on by the naughtiness and like, any thoughts on like how we can make this more of like a sensual experience and like mentally and emotionally, like I would love to be like wooed. Like how can we talk ourselves into it or talk to our partners about it? That's like a soft experience.
Be like, you want to lose virginities together? Because that is what it is for a lot of us. It's like, if you weren't my first, you're my first.
You weren't my first, but now you can be.
Put on 16 candles.
Oh my goodness.
From the
my
80s.
gosh. Jake Ryan.
Fuck yes.
I love this so much. Well, yes, absolutely. This can be a sensual and like romantic experience because there are so many delicious nerve endings across our whole backsides. Have you ever felt that like delicious feeling when your partner just like lightly touches the cheeks of your ass? Like, so delicious, almost like a tickly feeling. It's like, I mean, for me, that's such a place where I get an arousal experience, you know, and it's not like, you know, smack me and call me Sally. It's like very, very gentle, very, very slow. You want to make it romantic, you know, if that's going to be your turn on. So set the space, light candles, have a beautiful music playing, have your delicious, cozy, fleecy sex blanket or, you know, whatever is going to make it feel like soft and sensual and delicious and like textural, because we really want to to activate all of those nerve endings, and we want to connect this with pleasure versus pain versus abuse versus all of that historical data that we have and that we feel in our bodies for all of us. I was going to say especially as women, but men too, right? So this is a place where so much beauty can happen. And it's ironic because we're like, oh, but that's a dirty place. That is disgusting. And it's like, no, it's beautiful. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. There's a woman named Lola Martin who's a sex educator, and she's like, the asshole is the portal to God. And I think she got like quoted in GQ or something and like went viral because of that. But it's so true. It's so true. It really is a beautiful place. And the thing about it that makes it tender is that it is so intimate. Like, you are talking about maybe the most intimate thing we could ever do with someone. Think about it.
There's a lot of trust there. You got a lot of trust.
There's a lot of trust and a lot of like tenderness and sensitivity and
Vulnerability.
A lot of emotions also. We in our body tissues carry and store a lot of emotions in these places that we kind of abandon, right? Or let it go on autopilot. Our hips, our groin, our anal sphincters. There's a lot of emotional tension in that place. And so when we're allowing a partner to stimulate that place, when we're relaxing into a trusted place with them, into a new level of trust and exploration with them, it's a really sacred thing. It really, really is. And it's a beautiful thing. So even if you don't achieve like full penetration, it's not the point. Like, the point of anal sex and all sex is not to reach some sort of a finish line or to do it all the way. The point is to let go. The point is to be present. The point is to feel. The point is to allow.
I love that explanation.
Your experience.
I love that explanation, Lola. And see, now I'm going to get third grade again. Okay.
Great.
So what, you painted this beautiful picture.
Wait,
I'm like raising my hand. I'm like, all right, I'm going to see what happens with my life here. Like, I might be considering trying this shit, literally. And so now you've already told us how to kind of clean up and do all that. Okay. Now say someone does double dip. Say you're doing it in the pink and you go back to the stink and then you go back to the pink. Can you get pink eye in the pink? Like, you know what I'm saying? You get pink eye in your eye for caca. I mean, what does that happen if that does?
Maybe you should stick to one hole at a time, or what do you do?
Because if someone does double dip, there should be something, right?
Oh yeah, there is. Like, that's a very, very common cause of UTIs, is getting those bacteria specifically up into the vaginal canal and then up into the urinary tract. And that can happen without anal sex, right? It can just happen from not peeing after you have sex and not having your sex hygiene practices as with it as you need to be. Like, you get lazy. You're like, oh, I'll just go to sleep. I don't really want to do anything right now. I just want to pass out. And that's exactly when the bacteria and the flora inside of the very sensitive vaginal canal start mixing and mingling and breeding, and before you know it, you have a party you didn't want and people who are lingering who you need to kick out. And so some of the things that you can do are, first of all, yes, this is, like I said, a finale experience. You don't want to go back and forth. If this is male-female sex and the male is penetrating the female from the behind, that needs to be the end, unless there is a shower, soap, cleanup, and then you can continue on. But you really need to not be double dipping, because that is exactly what will lead to a raging UTI. And then you have to go all the way into antibiotics, because it's usually a pretty serious infection with that much bacterial exposure. It's not just like a little slip. It's a full on penetration with all of those friends that you don't want coming to the party. So hygiene is really, really important for this. Also, what's really important is if you have hemorrhoids, if you have birth injuries from surgeries or tears that have been repaired, you want to go extra, extra carefully, because the tissues are very, very fragile down there. It is not a place to push through, right? Okay. So if you're feeling any pain at all, discomfort is one thing. It's like in yoga. But if you're feeling pain, stop. Back away. This is not supposed to hurt. It does not need to hurt. It will actually feel good if you take your time and listen to your bodies. But so if you have pain, that's like yep, this is not happening today, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And if you have tears, like if you have recently had like a real big dump and you're still recovering and you notice you have a little bit of blood down there when you wipe, give yourself a couple days to heal up. You do not need to be aggravating that tissue.
That doesn't sound
very,
like
very
a good
sensitive.
recipe at all. Doesn't sound good at all.
No, it's not. And like we are also in a culture of pushing through. We're muscling through, like, I'm gonna make it happen. Do not make anal sex happen. Do not do that to yourselves. This is not for the goal-oriented moments in your life, right?
Oh my God.
This is a slow process.
Well, I'm getting a little older. I've farted and sneezed at the same time and maybe not needed to do both or didn't know it was happening, right? Like you're like at a grocery store and I'm like that lady now, or like I let out a fart. I'm like, oh shit, it came out and whatever. Like it did.
Yeah, you're like,
so if I'm opening this hole, will you tell me will it be even more or less control? Will it be flapping like a paper in the wind? Like what's gonna happen?
No, you are not going to release yourself into a new level of openness 24/7.
I'm just like, I'll be talking, I can just picture me like teaching yoga and be like just letting the foghorn like, yeah, I had anal sex last night, everybody. That's what happened.
No, it actually contracts very, very quickly after you're complete, to a complete degree. Like it'll go back right to where it started from. And it's totally fine. Like you're not going to open Pandora's tube.
Oh my God.
When you do this.
Oh my God.
Our bodies are amazing. It could go back to in place.
Well, yeah, like when we gave birth and you're like,
Exactly.
how the fuck are we going to do anything again with this?
Yeah,
And
it goes back.
And it goes back.
Yeah.
Pauly
goes
Shore's podcast, shout out to him. I love Pauly Shore. He had this little clip with some gay men and it was all these older gay men. And we'll have to research and I'll write this down who those men are. They have a huge following. But he asked them like, Pauly goes, all right, guys, let's be a little honest. Do you prefer a virgin asshole or do you like one that's a whore? Like a one that's been around? And they were like, one that's been around because it's easier to have sex with it.
They know,
it's not.
They know what's up.
Yeah, there's not enough, all this maintenance and time to put into it. So Pauly Shore was laughing. He's like, and he bends over. He's like my butt. My butt's a virgin asshole. You wouldn't want that right now. Fucking Pauly Shore.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my God.
And here's the thing too, speaking of that, is that, I think a lot of men really do hold curiosity about this, but they're so embarrassed and they're so like identified with, especially if they're straight, with not being gay. And so it's like, oh, well, I'm just going to dismiss this or I can't really talk about that. Or if I do talk about that, then what does that mean? And they start to have all these like identity crises almost. And it literally means nothing about your sexuality. Zero. Zip. It has nothing to do with your identity. And you can really add this in for both parties in a heterosexual relationship. And it's vulnerability building, which is intimacy building, which is fodder for inside jokes for years to come. Also deeper connection. So, it's like, let's allow everybody to be curious about the poop shoot and what other purposes it might serve in your life.
I think the curiosity and the vulnerability is sexy. If you're
is
hot.
To open yourself up to new things, especially like we said, we're in relationships where you've been together for so long, you trust that person. Why not bring up
spice?
new things?
Open up another attraction at the amusement park. See what happens.
That's right. That's right. And you might not get it the first couple times either. So don't just write it off. It's like, you know what? That's not for us. Because it takes a while to build the level of openness that's required physically for it to feel good and for it to function. And then once you do, it is a beautiful thing, and you don't need to be wasted to do it. Like you don't need to override yourself in order to open to these things. Because a lot of times that's how it happens, especially for women. I know for me, like I was drunk the first time and I was like, yeah, it's a great idea. Was my whole entire system on board with that? Maybe not. I don't know. I was wasted.
Yeah.
So, it might take a little lowering of inhibitions to explore this. That's totally okay. But eventually it doesn't have to be something where you artificially override your own feelings, desires, and experience in order to have something like this feel good.
Great. Well, man, are we gonna butt out of this? Or are we gonna keep going?
Yeah, no, let's go to the other A, which we did anal, now we're doing aging and sex.
The two A's.
Yeah. I don't know how to do a smooth transition from one to the other, but
we were talking about farting and so.
Oh, well, yeah. How the farts come looser and more willingly out of your body when you get older. Yeah.
And it's like we women get fucked up the ass without consent about all the judgment we get for getting older. Like,
there you go.
No.
Yes. There's the transition. Thanks, Lola.
Boom.
So yeah, I mean,
lubed.
How do we, okay, I'll be quite honest. I'm hitting the age where when I thought my parents at this age, especially my mom, I'd be like, maybe she's having a little sex. I didn't think, you don't think about that. You don't think that's a thing anymore. You're like, they're getting older. They were young. They already fucked. Like they don't fuck after you're 45, or 40.
Yeah.
Well, that ain't true. Because I've been hearing left and right. I think senior citizens these days are a little more open. So that's the age group that comes next. But they be fucking. Not. They're like, not as often, but we fuck. I'm like, cool. So let's get started.
That's encouraging.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it never stops feeling good. If you do it right, it never stops feeling good. And we never stop getting aroused. Now, we might all need a little bit of assistance in that department because for men, they start having circulation issues. For women, they start having lubrication issues, right? And so these things can become stories super, super fast. So as a woman, when you're starting to get more mature, we'll say, you might notice that it either takes you longer to self-lubricate or you don't self-lubricate as much as really would feel good for you. And so it really is not a commentary on your level of turn on. And actually, there's science to show that lubrication does not always equal arousal. We can be lubed like from our own systems and not be aroused. We can be aroused and not have lubrication. But we have conflated the two to be like one is the same. And they're not. So when we get older, we could be like, is my partner not turning me on anymore? And our partner can start worrying, like, am I not turning her on anymore? She's drier. Like, what's happening here? It has nothing to do with turn on. It has everything to do with what else is going on in our body at the time. And for women, we need more assistance. We just do. So you definitely want to keep up your hydration just across the board. That's going to be helpful for everything. But you also want to find yourself some good lubricant that feels good and actually becomes like a part of the arousal process for you. Like I know that I do have an association of moisture equals arousal. I have like a mental connection with that. So I will actually get more turned on when I have lube applied to me or when I apply it to myself. All of a sudden my body's like, ooh, I am turned on. Look at that, you know? And so it's a funny thing, but it does help the process. And I've talked to my husband about that. I said, please don't be hesitant to, even if I already seem like I'm aroused, like bring on the lube, baby.
Yeah, add
like
some drops.
Add some drops. Like it'll make me more aroused. It'll also make it feel better because we need to have those nerve endings stimulated in a pleasurable way. And they'll get stimulated by friction. Non-beneficial friction if we don't have enough lubrication. And so then we'll be like, oh, I'm just feeling like discomfort or pain or just ugh. Sex in general should never, ever be painful. There's something else going on if it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And amalaki too, the supplement amalaki is really good for women. Like it neutralizes our hormones and it just gets us going. I've been taking it forever. Maybe that's why I'm all like horny all the time. I'm like, amalaki.
Yeah, there's shatavari, there's ashwagandha. There's a bunch of really, really powerful Ayurvedic herbs that can help with arousal in general. And the same thing will happen on the male-female dynamic when your partner maybe has some issues with circulation start to happen, and you go, oh, like I'm not sexy enough for them anymore. They probably want somebody younger, and da da da. And a lot of times, no, that's not it at all. It's just that their system needs a little bit of extra support as well. And so there's like no shame in doing that, because we're going to still want to bang. That does not go away. We don't lose our sex drive necessarily. It's not like parallel with aging. And I know for women, our sex drive starts to actually increase all the way up into menopause and beyond. So there's so many stories that can be rewritten as we start to open up this conversation and continue the process of doing that as we get older. Sex does change a little bit, right? We need these extra supports, and, maybe we need to slow down. Maybe we need more time, but is this a bad thing? Or is this just us maturing into a richer experience?
Well, I think what mentally we think is sexy is the reason why we don't think that when you're older you have sex. Like, we think young is sexy, right? And you have to not have wrinkles, and if you're aging, it's just
cellulite.
not. It's not what's what we see advertised as sexual or sexy. You have to be at your your late 20s to be sexy and to fuck.
High and tight and wet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's right. At all times, right? Like at a turn of a second. And like, that's the reason why those Sports Illustrated cover issues this year with Martha Stewart, and they've had these, older women, right, who are in their 70s and 80s modeling and being like, look, they're still sexy. Well, the reason why we're considering them still sexy is because they're presenting as young, right?
Yeah.
It's not that we are considering an older woman sexy. We have a lot of reprogramming to do about that. And it's a challenge, because really what's happened is we've all internalized what has been constructed as the male gaze. It's not even necessarily biologically inherent to them, right? It's just one of the amazing and consistent byproducts of patriarchy. And so we've all internalized what we're supposed to be turned on by if we were a, 17-year-old white male. And that's actually not true, even probably for the 17-year-old white males. But we've got a lot of unpacking to do around that.
That's a good point. I think that's where I think I was mind fucked for a while, like, getting into my 40s and being like accepting. I had a resistance to aging, I was like, fuck, man, like there's more maintenance. Like, I'm loosening, where are these arm skin little things hanging, like facial expressions, my hair, like everything. And I was kind of like, oh, I don't want this to happen. And now I'm like, fuck it. Well, it's happening.
Don't be so
it's beautiful.
hard on yourself. I mean, that's exactly like what we've been raised to think. It's still ingrained in our minds, and like it's still a fact that our society does not care about aging women. Or
just people, and just elderly in general. We stick them, somewhere to age on their own, and it's fucked up. But no, and it's so liberating when you can accept it and be like, man, it's actually beautiful. You're like, I am a seasoned motherfucker. I'm like a good steak that I won't eat before I do anal.
I'll eat it on the non-anal days. No, oh my gosh. Well, and here's the thing. One of my good friends was just spending time with her mother and her grandmother. And her grandmother's in her 90s and needs a lot of support at this point, just physically, like getting up out of the bed, going to the bathroom, showering. And she was recently needing to help her grandmother shower because of some things that were happening. And she was like, her body was stunning. It was stunning. It was so beautiful and so soft. And like, there was so much beauty that for her, it was like the best possible mindfuck, because it was like, holy shit, I have had these beliefs that I'm going to lose my beauty. I'm going to become unappealing, that I'm basically on a downhill slope toward unattractiveville. And she's like, and I'm sitting here beholding this like 90-something-year-old woman and genuinely seeing real beauty in her, and not like selling myself on that it's beautiful. Like, it is actually beautiful. And it really changed things for her about how she felt about her own future, and her own attractability and desirability. And just like our sexuality, there's no reason those things need to fade. We just have to do the work, just like we have to constantly do the dishes. Like, it doesn't ever stop. Do the work to dismantle these beliefs that we hold. That's all they are, is beliefs.
Yeah.
And they run our lives.
Yeah. And, there is a difference. I still do things that I'll put quotes around that with my fingers, that preserve me, but there's a health benefit to it. Like, I'm doing my fascia blaster, and the health benefit fit for that is like, especially on my legs, I had no idea. Like, you think, oh, cellulite's just fat. No. It's like, no, actually there's more to it. There's like trauma in my legs that need to be released. And that's why that's there. It's like emotional trauma. And then my lymphatic system will, everything will function so much better releasing those tensions, and it's like, and it happens to have a physical benefit to it. My skin will look tighter, but there's also oils I put in my face that go into me that I could eat, that I would eat, that have benefits to my skin, but yet they're going to have internal benefits when my body digests that. So I feel like if we can uplift each other and say, hey, let's do the healthy shit, where we age gracefully and we're in it for the health part of it, not just the beauty aspect. If the beauty aspect just happens to be a side effect that's perk, let's go for it. But I think it's also being in the group of friends that I have now, and I feel so blessed, with you and Stephanie and all of our other friends that we have out there. We are around the same age, and it's so uplifting to be with each other, and we really do make each other feel beautiful. And it's not just because of what we see on the outside is what we feel on the inside. And that is just so special to not just have a superficial friendship, but really look at each other and know each other and appreciate each other on a different level. And that's made me feel more beautiful than anything in the past few years.
I love that. Well, I think that if you think about what makes somebody attractive, physically attractive to you, it isn't necessarily their looks. It's their vitality. Right. And so we're told by our culture it's their looks. And so we focus on looks. But what's actually attractive is healthiness, is vitality, is integrity. These are the things that create beauty. It's exactly like you said. It's like, this will result in beauty. But if we just focus on the beauty piece and leave those pieces out of it, what do we have? We have a bunch of empty shells walking around that all start to look the same as each other. And guess what's happening, right? That's what happens when we try to preserve youth and ascribe to one singular model of what's supposedly beautiful. Whereas if we just fed ourselves well, if we moved our bodies, if we hydrated, if we fucked, if we shat, if we did all the things we're supposed to do as human beings, that really allow us to thrive as individuals and as a species, there's going to be beauty as a natural benefit and side effect. And that will continue also across time.
You hit that right on. When I feel the most vibrant and sexy is when I have like you said, ate right. I've exercised. I've given myself time to find inner peace and connect with myself. And honestly, it's not that I'm getting sexual attraction from people. That's not what I'm seeing. I'm having more eye contact with people. I'm attracting other humans to engage with me because they can feel my vibration is good.
Yeah. It's life lubricants.
Yes. There you go.
Yes.
Lubricate
totally.
your
And
life
that's
with all the like regular daily things that we should be doing. Yeah.
That's right. That we could be doing. That we can do.
Taking
that
out
we are
shoulds.
doing.
Fuck the shoulds.
You're doing it.
Yeah.
You are.
Yeah,
You are. All those little steps.
And I was going to say, you said something really important that I want to make sure people make space for to like noodle on. And that is, it's not just sexual attraction, it's attraction. And we have sexualized attraction, we have sexualized pleasure, and we have sexualized beauty. These things are so much more than about sex. So much more, right? Attraction is just a curiosity, right? It goes back to that. It's like, oh, there's an opening there. There's a resonance. It doesn't have to be sexual.
Yeah.
If it is, cool. But it's more than that.
It is. And we see it in nature all the time when it's not sexual. Why does the butterfly land on a certain flower? Yes, sometimes it's just to rest in it. And sometimes it's for its food and nutrition. But and even us with certain nature. Like we stand next to a tree because maybe it doesn't even have its leaves, but there's something about that tree, or there's something about that flower, or that space that you go to, or the place you get to sit on the beach. There was something that called to you energetically for you to sit there. So I think that's totally real. We're all energy. And sometimes we don't want to be around fucked up energy, but the good energy is the energy I feel like we're going forward in this aging sexual revolution and just revolution of beauty. It's up to us, our generation. And I think the generation ahead of us is starting to do it, which I really appreciate it. Thank you, baby boomers. That's your gift, is to keep fucking going and saying, we are fucking, we're gonna fuck till we die. I'm gonna fuck even if I have to hang on to a walker. I'm gonna be getting that.
You don't have to be upright.
No, I was going to say you can lay down. You can both be lazy and lay down.
If I happen to like anal, I might be hanging on to the walker.
That's right. Put the brakes on, baby. Don't forget the brakes.
Oh my God. I'm just thinking about the walker with the tennis balls on the feet.
Wait.
You got to prop it against something so it doesn't walk away.
Oh man,
with you.
we got it instantly here. So no, thank you so much, Lola. I feel like you're one of those friends that if you have that like question, and all of us, it's just so easy to talk to you about something that's uncomfortable. And this was definitely one of those uncomfortable ones for me. Like I get a little conservative when it comes to this. So thank you for talking to me, educating us and everyone listening. You're always a pleasure to have on.
Thank you, Lola.
Yes. And
You're
we
welcome.
will be, displaying some amazing things for Lola here.
Yes.
She has so many beautiful services to offer. And so look out for that if you are wanting to, connect with her. And we will be offering that with the notes on our show, but also in future episodes. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It's such a joy and a delight and an honor always.
Thank you. If you'd like to keep up with the latest, see more shenanigans, or just connect with us, go to Instagram, where you'll find us at Real Motherfuckers Podcast.
And also, if you'd like to see some real juicy mama boobs, you can see it in action on YouTube, also at Real Motherfuckers Podcast.
And enough with the free Costco samples.
You can start paying up. Actually, you can also just support us monetarily on Patreon, where you'll get some more cool exclusive content. And you can find us there at
Real Motherfucker Fuckers Podcast.
We fuck up on this show.
Yeah.
Nothing's perfect.
Hence the name.